Hi, this is Ivey, the fulfillment artist, and in this video I'm going to teach you about how having a strong father figure impacts you as a child. Now, the reason that I did this video is that someone actually asked for a video on this, so let's dive into it. So the first thing is, as a child, we've got two primary influences in our life, right? We've got our parents and our environment. Now, in this video we're focusing on one of the parents. But it's incredibly important for us to delve into, because if you imagine millions of years ago, right? Generally speaking, we have the male, which is the provider of food. They'd go out, hunt and come back. And then females, generally speaking, would take care of the children. They'd be the caring type. Now, in relationships now, generally speaking, you have a breadwinner and you have someone that cares for the family. Although in recent times these have switched around and you have some females that are breadwinners and the guys care at home, or a bit of vice versa, or sometimes they do both. So there's lots of different influences that can happen in a child. But for this video, what I want to imagine is I want you to let's say that the female character, okay, so the mother, is very loving and is just a wonderful mother. And now we're going to look at all the different types of fathers that could be in their lives that will affect the child in a certain way. Number one, the stay-at-home father figure. So this is a father that is at home 24/7 looking after the child. How does this affect a child's development? Well, one thing is that they will suddenly develop great personal skills, and they will be able to move forward in a way where they've always got that father figure present, which is fantastic. The only issue arises is where there aren't any boundaries, because what can happen is the child becomes very dependent on the father figure and the mother figure as well, but especially the father figure if he's there 24/7. These can lead to butting heads, there can be issues, and it will depend on the parenting style. But there is a very big thing to be aware of, is that, you know, as a child, if you think about going back, how did I interact with my father at that young age? Because often that dependency is difficult to then break away. And from a female child perspective, they may, love their father so much, be with them so much, that they may then want to go into a relationship with someone that has the same traits as their father figure. So this is something to be aware of, where the father is fully present. Next is the present father figure. So this is where then they're not there all the time, but they go to work, they come back, and they do spend time being present with the child. Now here is a great opportunity to develop fully, where they have the interaction with the father, which is great, but they also don't have the constant him being there, where they can actually spend some time alone and develop their own interpersonal skills and allow themselves to spend time by themselves, as opposed to constantly being nurtured. And this balance is fantastic. And this is one of the healthiest ways in order for a child to really develop. Next, the not present father figure. So here, this is where you've got a father that goes out, he works constantly, and then he comes back, from time to time. Now here, the child will never really feel like they have a proper bond with their father. And often they will crave that person's love because they're not there. So what happens in the development for this child? Well, a couple of things. They can either rebel against the father, not feeling close at all, and not listening to anything that he has to say. Or they can become completely attracted to and wanting to please the father all the time. Because often in life, rejection breeds obsession. So what happens to the child in this scenario? In this case, they can go both ways. And in essence, they may not be able to fully develop the masculine side, right? So they may be more feminine, whether it's a girl, whether it's a guy. They're going to be more feminine because they're going to be around more females, generally speaking. So they may find it hard to interact with males, and they may not really get that sort of driven masculine side that most of us are used to. They'll have more feminine traits. So if that's the case, then one would need to look into developing the masculine side of themselves, spending around with like a good core peer group. And that's what often happens. And I'm going to explain to you what happens when there is an absent father in a sec. So next is the absent father figure. So what happens with an absent father figure? Here there is no father figure in the person's life. So in this scenario, They won't develop any masculine traits unless they find it outside of the household. And this is often where you see gangs developing, because they don't really have that sort of masculine side. So often people go to gangs, they'll find friendship groups, they'll be put in different environments to find that part of themselves that they've never really had. What often happens as well is that a child will idolize their father, and they'll either demonize or idolize, if that makes sense. They'll come up on a pedestal of, this is what my father's like, this is what I want him to be, and they'll often search for a relationship to find that type of father figure. Right? Our relationships are patterns and they repeat in very different ways. It's very interesting. And they may demonize the father instead. So that means they may hate males, they may go around and say, no, masculine guys, I can't believe that. They may have a very difficult sense of self-worth, because they'll say, why did my father leave me? Why was he never there? And that self-esteem side of things is hugely important for children to develop. So if you didn't have a father figure in your life in some way, shape or form, then it can be worth really working on reinforcing that self-esteem that could be lacking without having that father figure there. So as well as the father figures being there and how much time they spend with the child, there's also different types of parenting styles. And for simplicity purposes, I wanted to break it down to a sort of more generic, more fun way that I think you'll be able to interact with and see where your father or where you fit on this scale. So the first one is a sergeant father, right? This is where it's high control and low warmth. They want you to be a certain way. It's regimented army kind of style. Do this, do that. I expect you to get this grade. There's not really much emotion there. And in this case, a child will either obey and say, okay, or they may rebel. And often that's what will happen, where they say, oh no, my dad's already mean, or no, I always listen to my dad's always right, and I do these sorts of things. So that's the first type. Next is the lion father. Here they do allow and sort of assert a lot of control, but then they also allow the person to relax as well. They've got leeway and they have boundaries in place. So in this scenario, the father may set out a sort of culture. There may be some guidelines, and then if broken, then there will be that sort of lion approach and say, I don't want you doing that, and then they will allow them to be permissive. And this is a great balance of both. So most fathers will want to be aiming to be a lion father. Lastly, the chicken father. Now in this case, what happens is there's no control really. In essence, the child is allowed to do whatever they want and they love the child no matter what they do. Now the issue that arises here is that the child kind of learn to abuse their power and literally do whatever they want. And often the child will run the household. They will tell, I want this for lunch, I want this for dinner, I want that. And they will never really get a sense of that environment of having some sort of culture and rules and having their own values and principles. They will always feel entitled, as many millennials do, and especially when you're a sort of single child, chicken father and mother is often a big issue. So you can imagine that the personality of the child develops in a way where they never experience what it's like to be told, no, you shouldn't do that, and they will be outraged, and often they will break out and they will scream and fight. And you can see that, and that happens very often with sort of new parents moving into these things where they constantly want to please the child. So the chicken is more of a pleasing thing, always wanting to keep the child happy no matter what it is that they want. So the question is, what results can a great father have? So I wanted to direct us to a study. The report is Fathers and Their Impact on Children's Well-Being. Even from birth, children who have an involved father are more likely to be emotionally secure, be confident to explore their surroundings, and as they grow older, have better social connections. This is such an important point, because we forget sometimes how important it is to have a present father figure. So looking into your life, even if you don't have a father figure, look and seek someone out that can act as a mentor or be a person in your life that you can really look up to, because it will help really boost that self-esteem. Because self-esteem is one of the most important things. So out of everything that I've encapsulated here, there's going to be lots of different influences, and certainly from the father aspect, developing that masculine side of yourself and the different parenting styles. The question that I want to pose to you here is, what type of father did I have, and what is my relationship with him? because this is going to help you develop that core skill of awareness. And then with that awareness, you can move forward in your life and develop different traits as opposed to the habitual patterns that you currently have. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll speak to you very soon.